Let's take a trip over to the rumor mill. Talk about the latest rumblings from Tigerland all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, December 2nd, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place just a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome in, welcome all. Hope everyone had a fantastic holiday weekend. For those on this side of the border, Thanksgiving weekend, obviously, for us in America. So hopefully everyone had a safe and good time with friends, family, etc. We are, of course, back after not putting out a show on Black Friday because of said holiday. But, given our extended time off, there have been a lot of, they're not reports, because reports actually have objective and factual information in them. These are strictly rumors, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure if publications were just bored over the holiday weekend or wanted to get some clicks over a period of time that usually doesn't provide any in a Thanksgiving weekend. There were a lot of just random rumors that were thrown out there over the last 4 days. And so we're just going to kind of bounce around and talk about these rumors. There's not a specific one that's going to dominate, 25, 30 minutes of the show. We're just going to talk about a lot of the rumblings that we've heard over the last week-ish that we haven't had time to address yet on the show. And then at the end, we'll talk finally about the MVP award, which we are way behind on, kind of the final votes there. Tyler Holton getting a vote, stuff like that. So let's start off with Nolan Arenado. Over the weekend, there were multiple reports, but the one I saw, let me get an exact name here, was from Bleacher Report. And the report was that the Tigers are expressing some interest in Nolan Arenado. Now, I want to start off by saying this. If you just Google Tigers rumors or Tigers news even, you're going to get about 70 million articles all saying that the Tigers are linked to a specific player in free agency. And the reason that happens is because what websites will do is they will see any beat writer or any legitimate journalist or reporter on the planet say, oh, well, my free agent prediction is this player goes here. And then 15 websites write about how, rumors, Tigers may land so-and-so. Okay, well, that very much dilutes the rumor mill, because now we just have 80 million articles saying that the Tigers are linked to literally every single free agent on the market. So if you really want to, you can convince yourself that the Tigers are interested in pretty much everybody just by looking on the internet. So that's why we're talking about some of them today. But I did want to throw that out there at the beginning of this whole conversation. I think when it comes to Arenado, the one that I saw was via John Paul Morosi, who is obviously a Michigander and talks about the Tigers a lot. If you read the tweet, post, whatever it's called now, specifically, you will quickly find out that this was not the Tigers are interested in Arenado. It just says, the Tigers would be an interesting fit or intriguing fit for Nolan Arenado, and he may be able to play first base. He may be willing to do that. Okay, well, John Morosi thinking that Nolan Arenado would be a decent fit in Detroit does not mean A, that the Cardinals are willing to trade Arenado to the Tigers, or B, that the Tigers have any interest in Nolan Arenado, the player. It just means that John Morosi thinks it would be a good fit and nothing more than that. When it comes to the actual fit of Nolan Arenado, you know, I'll be real with you, and this isn't me saying that if Arenado was a Tiger tomorrow that I would be like furious about it. There's a few factors here. One is that it would be a trade, right? This isn't a free agent signing. This would be a trade. So you would have to give up players and assets in order to acquire him. But I think for me, the hesitation comes with the numbers over the last 3 years, the pretty linear decline of those numbers across the board, and the advanced analytics not looking any better than the numbers on the back of the baseball card either. In 2024, he hit 272, which is solid, especially in today's day and age of baseball, but had a slug under 400. He had a 394 slugging percentage. That's a 719 OPS in 2024. That's barely a league average hitter. Now, could the Tigers use a league average hitter that's still elite defensively over at third base? Absolutely. But you're going to have to give up, like I said, assets to acquire him. And on top of that, he is in a pretty hefty contract over the next couple of years still. He is not an unrestricted free agent until 2028, which means you would have him under contract for the next 3 seasons. It's $21 million this upcoming year, 16 mil in 2026, and 15 mil in 2027. Given the gradual decline, 2022, 891 OPS, 293 average, 30 home run hitter, right? One of the best players in baseball in 2022. 2023, 774 OPS. Home run numbers went down a little bit. Slugging overall went down a lot. OBP went down a lot. And then this year, tanked again a significant amount from 2023. He's 33 years old. He'll be 34 next year. And there are some serious concerns about his bat speed and his ability to barrel up a baseball at this point. His average exit velocity, he was in the 9th percentile. Barrel percentage, the 6th percentile, almost bottom 5. 3.2% barrel percentage on the year. Never barreled up the baseball. Hard hit rate, 12th percentile. And this is the thing that scares me the most. Bat speed, 28th percentile. Now, unfortunately, with Baseball Savant, we don't have access to bat speed numbers throughout, entire careers. We can't prorate that. We can't go back and look at what they were in other seasons because that's a new statistic to just 2024 and going forward. But the fact that you see these numbers go down so much in the slugging department, not really, I mean, it's less than it was in 2022, but his career average is 285 and he hit 272 this year. His career OBP is 342 and it was 325 this season. Those aren't too far off. You're within 15, 20 points. He's a career 515 slugging percentage guy and it was sub 400 this year. That would lead me to believe that the bat speed has dropped off. We have heard a lot of concerns about his back. He has had a lot of injury stuff to deal with his back over the last several seasons. And I think that, again, 34 years old he's about to be next year, there's a real chance that is just caught up with him. So, those are my hesitations with Arenado. But it's not all doom and gloom. And I think that the most interesting part of this report specifically is the point. It's not a report. Rumor specifically. Rumor. Not at all a report. Rumor. Again, rumor. I'll reiterate again. Rumor. That John Morosi said was about his willingness to play first base. And we will talk about that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get 150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place all of your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow. Programming note, about halfway through the month of December is when we will drop to 3 episodes a week. So not this week, not next week. We're going to get through winter meetings. We'll still be pumping out an episode a day when all of that goes down. But by the end of the month, we will be down to 3 episodes a week, and we will stay there until Pitchers and Catchers Report in February. Okay? But for now, we'll be back tomorrow. And we'll still be here, obviously, throughout the rest of the offseason as well. Talking about Nolan Arenado, I mentioned before the break there, John Morosi talking about his willingness to maybe play first base. I don't know why this matters at all. And like this really, that part of the report means absolutely nothing to me. Like if you find out that, by the end of the contract, if he doesn't have it at third base anymore, that he can play first and pick it really well, then sure, that's a huge boost, I guess, and maybe can make his value not deteriorate as quickly as it's appearing like it could over the next 3 seasons that you would have him under contract. He was in the 95th percentile in range this year at third base still. Like, I don't care. If the Tigers acquired Nolan Arenado tomorrow, you know where he would play? Third base. You know where he would play every single game in 2025? Goodness, forgot what year it was. Third base. That part of the rumor, I don't understand why that is even a caveat thrown in there. Like, unless he's just throwing that out there because, John Morosi doesn't think that Torkelson is going to be a part of the long-term plan, or thinks that maybe the Tigers are here to address first base in the offseason. That's all fine and dandy. They don't have a third baseman either. And I cannot fathom that this upcoming season, if the Tigers were to bring in Arenado, that he would play first base over third. That is completely asinine to me. So that means absolutely nothing if you haven't caught that drift. And it's not all terrible. He's just really this past year turned into like a contact hitter. 16 homers, 272 average. Strikeout rate under 15%. He was in the 92nd percentile in K rate and the 88th in whiff rate. Now, that didn't lead to a ton of walks. He was well below league average in walk rate and in chase rate, but he doesn't strike out very often. And he still is an incredible defender over at third base. Now, is he the platinum glove like 2019 Nolan Arenado? No. And are there injury concerns that may restrict him defensively over the next 3 years? Absolutely. I'm not saying that is all, sunshine and rainbows necessarily, but I still have a lot of faith in him being able to play better third base than anybody in the Tigers organization currently. And if they end up doing that, then you have, he's not going to be a negative value player because he is a plus defender at third base still, even if the offense does take another step back. For me, and we'll put a bow on this so we can get to other things here. I don't even know if I meant to spend this long talking about the Arenado thing specifically. For me personally, I am of the belief that if the Tigers were to legitimately kick the tires on Arenado, that you do not do this deal unless the Cardinals are willing to eat a decent amount of money. I'm not doing this straight up just for his contract. I'm certainly not giving up highly regarded assets for him just to pay him over $20 million this upcoming season and then 15 and 16 over the 2 seasons to follow. That is way too much risk, not enough reward, and the Tigers have found themselves and worked very hard to acquire a pretty darn good prospect pool at this point. I'm not doing that for free. So if you can give up some C, maybe B level prospects, like you're not touching the elite of the elite either. But if you can give up some mid-tier level prospects and the Cardinals can eat a chunk of change here, then maybe you consider it. But that is like the starting point. If the Cardinals have no interest in either of those two things, either a non-top end prospect in the Tigers organization, or they're not willing to eat some of the money, then I'm no longer interested in Nolan Arenado. And it's pretty much just as simple as that. I have serious concerns about him going forward, if that isn't abundantly clear. Serious concerns. And I'm not willing to like sell out just to make sure that they improve what could potentially be marginally from the production they got at third base this season. Obviously not defensively, but offensively. Okay. Some other news and notes over the weekend. I think one of the more interesting articles I saw over the weekend was from Bleacher Report. And it was from, let me find the name of the author here. Joel Reuter of Bleacher Report said that Jaden Hamm could be a centerpiece for a trade during winter meetings involving, obviously, the Detroit Tigers. For those who are not super familiar with Hamm, he's somebody that the Tigers took in the draft, I believe in the 5th round in 2023, and was not a very highly regarded prospect, did not come from a big school at all, I think Middle Tennessee State, and has really turned heads and has really flown up prospect rankings within the Tigers organization, and is now considered to be one of the better pitching prospects the Tigers have, and is another big win for this pitching development system we've talked so much about. And the article in itself was 10 prospects that could get moved during winter meetings. And the fact that Hamm is of a big enough name to get on that list is kind of awesome just from a development standpoint, again, for the Tigers. But I think that it really says something that he is on that list, because we did hear from Scott Harris in the front office that this upcoming, now in the middle of it, winter and this offseason, the Tigers could actually trade prospects for major league talent for the first time since Scott Harris took over. So do I think that that's a super high likelihood? No, I don't think the Tigers are forcing anything. And when I say anything, I mean buying or selling. I don't think the Tigers front office is going into winter meetings or just this offseason in general thinking, okay, we are going to force this to happen. We're going to force, we need to trade some prospects for some major league talent. We need to trade a major leaguer to improve our farm system more. We need to go spend $25+ million AAV on a free agent this offseason. I think they're going to kick the tires on a lot, and they're going to see what sticks. They're just going to throw a lot at a wall and see what they come out of it with. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm not saying I'm super thrilled about that. I would like a little bit more urgency and aggressiveness to build on an ALDS appearance and a playoff appearance, a playoff series win this season. And with the youth that you have and the limited amount of time that Skubal is still going to be at a minimum cheap, if not just straight up on your roster, I would like there to be a little bit more urgency. So if that means trading a guy like Hamm, who I absolutely adore in this organization, but if you can trade him and get a legitimate high-end player, you got to ask yourself, is a 5th round pick in 2023 worth a legitimate starting caliber piece? And it wouldn't just be straight up. The Tigers would obviously have to give up other players for like a legitimate, decently regarded starter at the major league level, I would imagine. But if you have to swap where the centerpiece is a 5th rounder 2 drafts ago, and the reward is a legitimate part of this starting lineup this year that's under team control and can maybe make the team better, I think you have to consider that. And so I just found that really interesting. I haven't heard anything else involving like Hamm. I don't. Again, that's one dude's opinion, similar to the John Morosi thing. That doesn't mean that the Tigers have any interest in trading Jaden Hamm. Maybe they don't. Maybe they look at him as a guy that they are really excited about and think maybe a legitimate part of their rotation in a year or two. But he's still in the lower levels of the minors, and you still have a lot of other really good pitchers in the minors that make it so that you have a little bit more flexibility to trade the higher regarded guys. And I think that he's right in that sweet spot, unfortunately for him, if he doesn't want to be traded, of like, okay, he's made a name for himself, but he's also not Jackson Jobe. Like, I think that that might line up with another team, but we'll see what happens. And I'm still a huge fan of Jaden Hamm. And if they don't trade him, which I'm not honestly presuming they will, if you ask me right now if I expect him to be a part of the organization, when pitchers and catchers report, I would say yes, pretty comfortably at that. I don't think I'm not expecting this to happen necessarily, but if there is a pitcher in the organization, if there is really a player that's not on the major league roster that I think has a legitimate chance, I give a ton of credit to Bleacher Report and the author there. I think that there's that there could be a fit with another organization and him. That's a really interesting proposition for sure. Okay, let's get to some news that actually happened. We'll talk about Jackson Jobe a little bit more, and then we'll talk about some awards. All right, we'll do all of that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the best, and that is why we talk about them so often. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier than it already was. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They have all-in pricing. You can toggle this feature and see your entire total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. The lowest price guarantee Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And of course, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in, as always. So let's talk about Jackson Jobe a little bit. Then we'll get to some news that actually happened, but it's a pretty small footnote here. Jackson Jobe is in a lot of articles lately, not as a trade rumor like Jaden Hamm is, but as a offseason / preseason favorite to be in the running for Rookie of the Year. I haven't seen anybody put him as the favorite in the American League yet, but I have seen a lot of people put him in, like MLB.com did one player from every team that could be a Rookie of the Year candidate. Jobe is kind of the slam dunk pick for the Detroit Tigers there. And then there was a few other articles I found from a plethora of publications that had him, in the top 3 or 5 in this winter. Again, we're way early. We're still months from pitchers and catchers even reporting, nonetheless, opening day and the season starting. But in early December here, there is already some hype that is starting to form surrounding Jackson Jobe this year. I'll be real with you. I'm not even sure he's going to be in the rotation on opening day. And that is not a slight against him. I absolutely loved how the organization handled him down the stretch and in the postseason. But I think that this team is going to load up with starting pitching depth this year, as we have now had what seems like 4 years in a row of pitcher injuries completely derailing this rotation and the Tigers having to figure out how to keep their heads above water with it. Now, obviously, this year was much better than the previous 3 in terms of that with the whole pitching chaos thing, but I think that they want a lot of starting pitching depth, and I expect them to bring in anywhere from 1 to 3 starting pitchers on the free agent market. I think it probably will be 2. And you still have Casey Mize. You still have Matt Manning. You still have some of these guys that you're waiting to see if they can ever reach the potential that was once stowed upon them, whether it's their fault or not, most of them not theirs. Not their own fault, that is. But I don't think the Tigers are going to go into 2025 thinking, you know what, opening day, Jackson Jobe rotation, that's all there is to it. I think they were probably looking around and going, okay, 2 to 4 starting pitching injuries are pretty much inevitable at this point. So what can we do that is best for Jobe's development while also giving the team actual depth? And I think that in the eyes of the organization, that is probably start Jobe in AAA, and when, you know, an injury or two happen in the starting rotation, then Jobe gets called up and ends up making 15 plus starts anyway. And that's something we'll talk about a lot more when spring training comes around, and something that I talk about on this show literally all the time is that people focus and are way too hung up on opening day rosters. There, so much is going to change. Just because Jobe does not make the opening day roster does not mean he's not going to make 10, 12, 15 starts for the Tigers next year. So I think if you're looking at the Tigers organization, he kind of has to be the guy you talk about. He's one of the best pitching prospects in baseball, arguably the best that's about to debut at least. But in terms of actual likelihood, no, and again, this is December 2nd, so this is fluid. And if I feel like my opinion has changed or that I was wrong about this take in December, you know, come January, February, or opening day, then certainly we'll talk about it then. But I think it's going to be an uphill battle for him to, with his current standing within the organization, to legitimately kind of make a run at American League Rookie of the Year. But that's not because of his talent. That's just because I don't think he's going to make enough starts. Talent-wise, yeah, he's there's an argument he should be the favorite just based on pure upside and ability. He's one of the best pitching prospects I've ever seen, and certainly is one of the best pitching prospects I've seen in a Tigers uniform. Tigers did re-sign Ricky Vanasco to a minor league deal. Not too much to say about this. Good pitching depth. He was decent for the Tigers organization in that kind of depth role once they acquired him from the Dodgers last year. I think that we'll probably start seeing this with a few other players as well. We talked about this as a huge possibility last week, that Vanasco was probably in line to just get re-signed by the Tigers on a minor league deal. And here we are. That is what ended up happening. Goodness, really fumbled that sentence entirely. So good for him, good for the organization. Glad that he wants to be here. Glad that he's willing to stay here. Minor league free agent. I mean, he could have gone anywhere. So glad that he will be back, because yeah, he was pretty solid for the Tigers down the stretch here. I'm going to be real with you. I think I'm going to punt the award voting again. I just, it's not a very long conversation. Like I promise. I just literally just want to go over the voting for MVP. Because we haven't yet. We talked about Cy Young. We talked about Manager of the Year. We talked about Rookie of the Year. Like, we've gone over all that. We just haven't had time to talk about MVP. And like, I just want to spend maybe 5 minutes talking about the voting results. But like, we're at about 30 already here, and there's no point in me pushing it in the offseason. So why don't we push that again to tomorrow, assuming that it's we have time at the end of that episode. So that'll be it. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow as we talk about what hopefully is a riveting conversation in regards to the MVP. We're really dragging this out and hyping it up a lot. I promise it's not that deep. It's really not that exciting. I literally just want to discuss it. So we will do that and plenty more on tomorrow's show. Let me know what you think about Arenado, what you think about the prospect of trading Jaden Hamm, the front office's aggressiveness overall this offseason, and of course, Jackson Jobe's 2025 campaign. Talk about something fun tomorrow. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.